Senator Stephen Horsford, representing Nevada. We have over 12,000 federal employees in our state who ran the risk of not having a paycheck for this holiday season. We have Air Force bases, military bases, and installations here in our state that could have possibly been affected by this shutdown. And so, again, I am glad that the Democrats, yet again, came to save the day. I'm proud of Hakeem Jeffries, and I'm proud of the congressional delegation here in Nevada as well.
Now, I wanted to talk to you because last week we had on the show the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, and he told us that the 23 Democratic attorney generals who will serve when Donald Trump is back at the White House have already began strategizing on how to handle his administration. What is your course of action, and what are you concerned the most about?
Well, Keith is a great friend of mine. Keith Ellison and I both were elected in 2018 together as attorneys general for our respective states. I am the immediate past co-chair of the Democratic Attorneys General Association, on which Keith sits as a board member as well. We have been working together for years in anticipation of doing what we do best, which is to defend the rights and privileges of the residents of our particular states. And so in preparation for a Trump 2.0, there was no difference. We continue doing what we've always done, which is to ensure that the rule of law is that which prevails. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm not denying that Mr. Trump is going to be our president-elect. He won the election fair and square. We're not election denying on this side of the aisle. But what I will also acknowledge is that he has the ability to implement policies pursuant to his political platform, but he has to do it lawfully. And if he crosses the line and violates any constitutional rights or lawful rights of a person present in my state, I will meet him in court and I will defeat him in court. We, as a Democratic Attorneys General, stand by the rule of law, and that rule of law doesn't change based on who the president is.
Now, last week you announced that Nevada's fake electors case from 2020 had been revived. It is 6 Nevada Republicans that are again being charged with submitting bogus certificate to Congress that declared Donald Trump the winner of the state's 2020 presidential election. You filed a new complaint charging the defendants with the felony of, quote, uttering a forged instrument. After the original indictment was dismissed earlier this year as a state judge ruled that the county was the wrong venue for the case. Why did you decide to pursue this charge, and how do you anticipate this to play out?
Well, in the first instance, we have the first case that we filed in Clark County. We believed we were lawful. We were correct in filing that case in Clark County. It was dismissed, and we have appealed that to the Nevada Supreme Court. We're confident that that appeal will ultimately be rendered in our favor, and we will return to Clark County to pursue not just the forgery charge, but also the filing of a false document charge in Clark County. But in an overabundance of caution, we decided, because the statute of limitations was running on the forgery charge, that we would refile that charge up in Carson City so as to ensure that justice prevails. In the Office of Attorney General, you can ask anyone I work with, they will tell you that our job is justice. And the definition of justice does not change based on an election. And so we will continue to pursue this, notwithstanding the fact that Mr. Trump is president, for example. I've gotten that question several times. Will I dismiss this case since Mr. Trump won? No, justice requires that these individuals who violated Nevada law in an effort to undermine the elections of 2020 should be prosecuted, and we will be doing exactly that.
They actually filed as electors when they weren't, and actually tried to say that Trump won the state then when he had not. Now, let me go to this before I run out of time. You have recently announced plans to run for governor of Nevada in 2026, being the first Democrat to openly say so. You'd potentially be the highest profile Democrat to consider challenging the Republican incumbent there, Governor Joe Lombardo, who plans to run for re-election. What is your pitch to Nevada this early on, 2 years in advance?
Well, less than a pitch. Well, let me be clear first off, Reverend. I have not made a formal announcement about my intention to run for governor. I do intend to run for higher office, and I'm having conversations with Nevadans all across the state to find out exactly what they believe Nevadans need in their next governor. I think these discussions are going to be important parts of determining how best I can serve our state. The gubernatorial seat is something that I'm quite interested in, and I do believe that I have a lot to offer relative to ensuring that Nevadans across the board, the entirety of the Nevada family is taken care of relative to economics, relative to healthcare, relative to ensuring that their dignity is upheld. And so we're looking forward to continuing these conversations. No formal announcement, as I've indicated, has yet been made, but stay tuned, Reverend.
And no formal announcement from Aaron Ford, but Al Sharpton formally announced that he may formally announce. Thank you for being with us, Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford. Joining me now is the sage of Capitol Hill, Congressman Jim Clyburn, Democrat of South Carolina. Congress was ultimately able to avert a government shutdown with last-minute votes to keep the government funded for the next 3 months. President Biden just signed that bill earlier today. Previous versions of the spending bill failed this week after criticisms from President-elect Trump and Elon Musk, whose influence has critics questioning just how much power he now has over Republican priorities. But 170 House Republicans voted in favor of funding yesterday, despite Trump's demands and objectives and objections. Both he and Musk have hinted a forthcoming primary challenge to those that defied the both of them. So who's going to be in charge here next month? Congressman, is Trump in charge or is Musk in charge?
Well, thank you very much, Reverend, for having me this evening. You know, it's kind of hard to say. I would hope that we would stand with tradition and make sure that the president is in charge and that the members of Congress, as well as the judiciary, that the three branches of government will work in tandem to help keep our country moving forward toward a more perfect union. If we are going to give up the authority that's invested in us through our Constitution to an unelected person who has selfish motives, then the country is not going to run well. And I think we saw that when we saw this attempt to scuttle what had been a bipartisan bill agreed to by all of the elected officials, and then an unelected person injects himself into the process, and there goes out the window that bipartisan bill. Thankfully, 24 hours later, we brought it back together, but if that's what we're going to have during the Trump administration, I think the people of America are going to be sorely disappointed in the direction of the country.
And Congressman, what is so frightening to me is not only is he not elected, he doesn't lead any kind of interest group or any kind of organization. He's just given his prominence because he's rich, and he's only rich because under the Obama administration, he got certain federal contracts that excelled him. Now he's leading the fight against DEI and other things. It is frightening. And how do we look to the rest of the world that all you have to do is be rich and you can tell the government what to do? The president-elect is like something you pull strings around. But the next Republican-led Congress will begin the year with a massive slate of issues to contend with and a very narrow majority with which to pass bills. And after pushing through this spending bill, Congressman Mike Johnson reportedly faces an uncertain future and a lack of support from some of his caucus ahead of next month's House vote to either keep him as Speaker or elect a new one. How does this week's drama point to what we can expect in the House next month and next year?
Unfortunately, I think that this points to a lot of uncertainty and a lot of instability. We can say what we want to about our system, but it is a good system. It has created a great country. And if we put instability, uncertainty into the middle of this system, I'm not too sure how it's going to work. I've not always been satisfied with the results of the decisions by the Supreme Court or with the collaborations of our legislative bodies. But we've had a certain amount of stability that allow us to work together to maybe overcome the shortcomings the next time around. But if we are going to allow our legislative body to be hijacked by what I would call elected official who has a portfolio that seems to have been just given to him. He doesn't seem to understand what government is all about, except when he needs to be bailed out, as he was by the Obama administration, and now all of a sudden he's acting as if nobody is deserving of the attention of the federal government except him.
Now, as you know, President-elect Trump has called for members of the House January 6th probe to be imprisoned. And a House Republican Committee chairman is calling for former GOP Congresswoman Liz Cheney to be investigated by the FBI for her role in that probe, claiming in a report released this week by the House Administration's Oversight Committee that Cheney violated several federal laws, specifically by allegedly tampering with witness and former Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson. Hutchinson's lawyer has called these accusations preposterous, while Cheney has defended the legality of her work on the probe. What are your thoughts on this, Congressman?
I think that whoever is doing this is just seeking a headline. We all know that that was a duly constituted committee headed by our good friend Bennett Thompson. They did the work that was assigned to them. They had a right and a responsibility, I might add, of interviewing any witness that they may put before the American public. And that's not tampering. That is preparing people in order to be coherent when they are going to speak to the American people. I thought they did a great job. I am not really happy with the way it's been responded to by members of the legislature, that is the House and the Senate. But the fact of the matter is, they did what they were responsible for, and they did a great job, and we need to stop the grandstanding. I think that's all this is, someone looking to make a headline. I don't think it has any kind of legal water in which to flow.
Now, while we still have time, the House Ethics Committee secretly voted this month to release its report into former Congressman Matt Gaetz' conduct while in office. Gaetz faced accusations of illegal drug use and sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl. Accusations he's denied, though they tanked his recent nomination by President-elect Trump to lead the Justice Department. Neither Trump or Speaker Johnson wanted the report public after Gaetz retired from the House just days ahead of its initial release date. What do you expect to come from its release now? And why should we care if the Justice Department didn't bring charges after its own investigation of Gaetz?
Well, I think we should care because I think that the Justice Department, though I